They called me Captain Elias Thorne, a name synonymous with the deepest parts of the ocean. My vessel, the Leviathan, was an extension of my will, and my first mate, Marcus Kane, was like a son. We built this empire from the ground up, on trust and unparalleled skill. I never imagined that trust would be my undoing. Our current contract was a multi-million-dollar recovery, a high-stakes job others deemed impossible. We were reclaiming a lost cargo of rare earth minerals from a depth few dared to tread. The precision required was immense. Every calculation critical, every move choreographed. The reward, however, was even greater. Then it started. A sudden, inexplicable surge in the main power grid. Control panels flickered. Alarms blared. It wasn't just a glitch. It felt like a deliberate systemic failure. My gut tightened, the cold premonition washing over me. This was not normal. The situation escalated quickly. Structural integrity warnings flashed across every screen. Bulkheads ground under immense pressure, then gave way. Water poured in. The Leviathan, my unyielding fortress, was tearing itself apart from the inside. Chaos erupted, a desperate fight against the inevitable. I fought. I commanded. I did everything I could to save my crew and my ship. But the damage was too severe, too widespread. The Leviathan was lost. Giving the order to abandon ship was the hardest moment of my life. I watched my legacy sink beneath the waves, a bitter taste in my mouth. The investigations began immediately. Negligence, reckless command. They hurled accusations like stones. My unparalleled reputation, built over decades, crumbled in days. The public outcry was deafening, fueled by sensational headlines. I was branded incompetent, a failure. Marcus Kane, my trusted first mate, appeared at my side, offering hollow words of comfort. His composure, however, was unsettling. While I was adrift in a sea of despair, he seemed strangely calm, almost calculating. A shiver ran down my spine, a feeling I couldn't quite place. In the wreckage of my career, I clung to every scrap of data from the incident, sifting through logs, schematics, and sensor readings. A subtle anomaly caught my eye. A fleeting thought, a whisper of doubt. This wasn't right. It was too perfect, too precise for an accident. They stripped me of my command. My company faced utter ruin. The multi-million-dollar contract, my lifeline, was rescinded. My world, my identity, shattered. Meanwhile, I saw Marcus. He was everywhere, consoling, advising, and I suspected, maneuvering. His consolation was a thin veil. Marcus was already securing the rescue contract, leveraging his heroic presence during my downfall. His new operation, suspiciously well-funded, rose from the ashes of my destruction. He built his glory on my ruin, and I knew, with chilling certainty, he had orchestrated it all. The hospital room felt like a cage. My body healed slowly, but my mind raced, replaying the sinking of the Leviathan. Nightmares were my constant companion. I saw the hull tearing, the water rushing in, the faces of my crew. Each breath was a reminder of what I had lost. And the pain was more than physical. Public opinion had turned against me. The headlines screamed of my incompetence, my recklessness. My name, once a badge of honor, now felt like a curse. The industry, my lifeblood, had blacklisted me. I was a pariah, stripped of my reputation, my livelihood, everything I had built over decades. The silence from former colleagues was deafening. Then Marcus Kane appeared, not in the shadows, but in the spotlight. He secured the rescue contract, the very one I had lost. He took over my operations, my equipment, even some of my key personnel. He rebranded everything, turning my legacy into his new empire. It was a calculated, swift takeover, executed with brutal efficiency. I watched from the periphery as he celebrated his triumph. Marcus, my protégé, now the celebrated hero, basking in the glory built on my ruin. He spoke of innovation and a new era, but I saw only the shadow of my Leviathan in his eyes. He was not just taking my business, he was erasing me from history. Weeks later, a chance encounter with an old crewman, Thomas, changed everything. He spoke of small, unexplained maintenance issues on the Leviathan in the months before the incident. Minor things, easily dismissed at the time. A faulty sensor here, a slow leak there. He thought nothing of it then, but now a chill ran down my spine. Thomas's words echoed in my mind. I began meticulously replaying every detail of the incident. I remembered crew reports, equipment readouts. Inconsistencies emerged, small anomalies I had dismissed in the chaos. A pressure reading that seemed too low, the valve response time that was slightly off. It was like putting together a puzzle but with missing, deliberately hidden pieces. I needed data. I tried to access my company's digital logs, the vessel's black box recordings, the operational archives. But they were gone. Locked. Corrupted. Every attempt met with a digital wall. It wasn't just bad luck. It was too complete, too systematic. Someone had wiped the slate clean. The gut-wrenching realization dawned on me. This was no accident. The destruction of the Leviathan, the timing of my downfall, Marcus's swift rise. It was all too precise, too devastating, too perfectly orchestrated. It was a masterpiece of sabotage, designed to look like my failure. My despair turned to a cold, burning resolve. I began a clandestine personal investigation. I dug out old schematics, my personal backups of operational data from years past. Every scrap of information I could find. I cross-referenced everything, looking for patterns, for anomalies that weren't there before. Then I found it. A chilling discovery. Minor, almost imperceptible flaws in the schematics of the Leviathan's critical ballast and hydraulic systems. Deliberately introduced, easily overlooked modifications that would lead to catastrophic failure under specific conditions. They weren't there in my original plans. Marcus, the man I trusted like a son, had systematically dismantled my world, piece by piece, from the inside out. He had signed my death warrant, and now I would sign his. The schematics were just the beginning. I knew Marcus had to leave a digital trail, even if he thought he had covered his tracks. My focus sharpened, turning from the physical to the ethereal, the lines of code and data packets that ran the Leviathan. It felt like hunting a ghost, but I knew ghosts left echoes. I needed help, someone who understood the deep architecture of these systems. I called Samuel, a retired engineer, a wizard with code and circuits. He was hesitant, wary of getting involved in my disgraced world, but I laid out my case, piece by agonizing piece, and my conviction, once again, proved infectious. Our first task was daunting, sifting through archived operational data, maintenance logs, and every line of code from the Leviathan. We cross-referenced them with the official accident report, looking for discrepancies. It was like sifting sand for gold, painstaking and slow, but I felt a flicker of hope with every passing hour. Then, Samuel found it. Not a direct attack, but subtle vulnerabilities embedded deep within the system's core programming. Like a hidden door left ajar, waiting for the right key. It was expertly masked, designed to look like a random glitch, but the timing of its introduction was too precise to be accidental. Further digging revealed a delayed action malware. A digital time bomb, set to trigger under specific high-stress operational parameters. It explained the cascade of failures, the synchronized destruction. Marcus didn't just want the Leviathan to fail. He wanted it to implode spectacularly, right when the world was watching. The digital trail led us to the physical. We started scrutinizing maintenance records, focusing on critical component replacements, ballast system valves, hydraulic pumps, structural sensors, everything that could have contributed to the disaster. Every serial number was checked, every supplier verified. We found them. Subtly inferior components, replaced just months before the incident. They looked identical to the originals on the surface, but their internal specifications were compromised. Designed for a delayed, catastrophic failure under the immense pressures of a deep-sea salvage. It was a cold, calculated swap. All roads led to Marcus. His access codes, his sign-offs on maintenance, the window of opportunity he had. He was in charge of logistics and procurement during that period. The timing of the software vulnerabilities, the component replacements, the incident itself. It was all perfectly aligned. He orchestrated my downfall with chilling precision. As I gathered proof, the whisper started. Anonymous reports questioning my mental state, old accusations resurfacing. Marcus was already using his new power to discredit me, to ensure no one would believe my claims. He was trying to bury me completely, but each attempt only fueled my resolve. The evidence was incontrovertible. Marcus didn't just betray me, he engineered my annihilation. His ambition was a ruthless, all-consuming fire. I had seen the serpent in his true form. My revenge would not be swift, but meticulous. It would be a mirror, reflecting his devastation back tenfold, ensuring his empire crumbled just as mine had. Marcus Kane was everywhere, his face a constant, unsettling presence. Industry magazines hailed him as a visionary, the new face of deep-sea salvage. He had taken my company, my multi-million-dollar contracts, and rebranded them under his name. Now he was expanding rapidly, acquiring more assets, securing lucrative new deals. The empire I had painstakingly built over decades was now paraded as his own creation, a monument to his supposed genius. The sight of it burned, a cold, steady fire in my gut, a constant reminder of his theft. His new operations were lauded as groundbreaking, innovative. But I knew the truth, a bitter pill to swallow. He was using my proprietary designs, my patented techniques, the very innovations I had poured my lifeblood into. He presented them as his own brilliant ideas. Many of my former crew, seeking stability, now worked for him. They followed him unknowingly into a kingdom built on deceit. They didn't know the true price of that stability. He was a thief, wearing a crown he did not earn, celebrating a victory that was not his. I watched his interviews, his confident posture, his calm demeanor. He spoke with such conviction, such practiced ease. He talked about overcoming adversity, about honoring the spirit of discovery, about a new era of salvage. He even mentioned the unfortunate incident with the Leviathan, always with a tone of solemn regret, subtly reinforcing the narrative of my recklessness. His words were poison, carefully crafted to cement his image as the industry's savior, and mine as its destroyer. Each word was a deliberate, twisting knife. He enjoyed the wealth, the glory, the endless accolades, invitations to exclusive dinners with powerful figures, coveted speaking engagements, prestigious industry awards. These were the moments I had worked tirelessly for, the recognition I had painstakingly earned over a lifetime. Now they were all his, undeserved. I saw him laugh, a genuine, unburdened laugh, at a lavish gala, a sound that tasted like ash in my mouth. He had shattered our brotherhood, our shared dream, our very foundation, for this fleeting, stolen glory. The personal cost of his ambition was immense, and he paid nothing for it. The public still saw me as the reckless captain, the one who lost the Leviathan. The articles, the sensationalized documentaries, they all painted me as a cautionary tale, a fallen legend. My name, once revered, was now synonymous with failure and incompetence. Marcus had ensured that, weaving his narrative with cunning precision. He built his pedestal high upon my ruined reputation, solidifying his hero status with every public appearance. It was a perfectly executed plan, designed to leave no room for doubt about my supposed guilt. But their certainty was a critical weakness he hadn't yet considered. I turned my relentless focus to Marcus's new ventures, scrutinizing every detail. His reliance on cutting-edge technology was immense, almost obsessive. Every new vessel, every system, was heavily automated, controlled by complex algorithms. He seemed to trust machines more than he trusted men, a clear vulnerability in my eyes. I also meticulously researched his key personnel, both the new faces he brought in and the old ones he retained. Everyone had weak points, hidden motivations, or past mistakes. I began to map his new empire, looking for the cracks, the subtle fault lines that would eventually lead to its collapse. I began to make subtle inquiries, carefully planting seeds of doubt within the industry. A seemingly casual call to an old trusted contact. A carefully worded email to a former supplier, asking about the quality of certain new components Marcus was using. Nothing direct, just innocent-sounding questions that implied deeper issues. Have you noticed anything unusual about Marcus's rapid expansion? Are his new systems truly as robust and reliable as they claim? The salvage industry thrived on whispers, on insider knowledge. A small doubt, given enough time and fertile ground, could grow to a forest of suspicion, undermining his entire foundation. I knew how to play this long game. My plan for public vindication and devastating revenge was taking precise shape. It needed to be undeniable, utterly public, and meticulously executed to shatter him completely. It wasn't enough to simply expose his treachery. I needed to systematically dismantle his carefully constructed image, just as he had meticulously shattered mine. The incontrovertible evidence of the sabotage, the digital trail, the compromised schematics, the faulty components, all pointed directly to him. But I needed to present it in a way that left no room for his lies, no escape from the truth. Every single detail, every calculated step, was now meticulously planned, down to the smallest nuance. I spent countless hours studying new encryption methods, delving deep into digital forensics, and mastering advanced network security protocols. Samuel, my old engineer, was a patient and invaluable teacher, guiding me through the complexities. I needed to understand every single facet of Marcus's digital fortress, if I was to successfully breach it. My old skills were honed to a razor's edge, my mind sharper and more focused than ever before. This wasn't merely about revenge. It was about reclaiming my honor, proving that true seamanship and unwavering integrity would always prevail against deceit. I was preparing for a war, A war I was absolutely determined to win. Then I saw it. A subtle, yet critical vulnerability in Marcus's operational security, exposed during the live televised launch of his newest, most advanced salvage platform. It was a fleeting moment, a lapse in protocol, easily missed by the casual observer. But I saw it, clear as day. My truth, hard-won and meticulously gathered, was a weapon far more potent than his stolen glory, and I was now ready to wield it with devastating precision. The game, which he thought he had already won, was about to change in ways he could not possibly imagine. He was about to learn the true, crushing meaning of deep-sea pressure, applied with ruthless intent. The game was on. I watched Marcus's new flagship, the Triton, prepare for its next big salvage. It was a risky operation, deep in a volatile trench. I had studied its schematics, its operational protocols. I knew its weaknesses, the ones Marcus had inherited and amplified. My first move was to mirror the conditions that had doomed the Leviathan. He would not see it coming. Marcus had chosen a site with extreme hydrostatic pressure and shifting currents. It was a calculated risk for him, a familiar trap for me. I began to subtly manipulate data feeds, creating phantom anomalies. Small digital whispers of trouble in the deep. They would seem like random glitches, easily dismissed by an overconfident captain. Next, I released carefully selected snippets of information, not direct accusations, but tantalizing questions, anonymous tips to industry blogs, a cryptic email to a journalist known for deep dives. I hinted at unusual patterns in recent salvage failures, a troubling trend in component sourcing, just enough to plant seeds of doubt, to make them look closer at Marcus. The whispers started, just as I predicted. Old colleagues, industry rivals, they all began to question Marcus's rapid success. They remembered my downfall, the swiftness of his rise. Now with my subtle nudges, they started to see the parallels. The industry was a small pond. A ripple could become a wave if guided correctly. I engineered a public forum, a panel discussion on maritime safety in a new era. Marcus was a key speaker. I arranged for a seasoned, sharp-witted journalist to ask specific questions about unforeseen system vulnerabilities and component reliability, questions that would force Marcus to defend his new, supposedly infallible fleet. He would be under pressure. His composure, once unshakable, began to fray. I saw it in the news reports, the subtle shifts in his body language. He dismissed the questions with practiced ease, but his eyes betrayed him. He was becoming defensive, irritable. Marcus was a shark who thrived in calm waters. Now the tide was turning, and he was losing control. Then came the technical maneuver. Using the same digital backdoor Samuel and I had found, I exposed a subtle flaw in the Triton's ballast system. Not catastrophic, not yet. Just enough to trigger a critical alert during a crucial phase of his salvage. It mirrored the Leviathan's initial failures, the ghosts from his past, haunting his present operation. My network bore fruit. A former senior engineer, disillusioned by Marcus's ruthless cost-cutting and disdain for safety protocols, reached out. He confirmed my suspicions about the Triton's compromised components. He even provided access to internal maintenance logs, proving the systematic neglect. His conscience, it seemed, was not as easily bought as his loyalty. Marcus grew desperate. He started making public, ill-advised statements, blaming external forces and sabotage for his new vessel's issues. The irony was not lost on me. He accused others of his own crimes. But the public, the journalists, they were connecting the dots. The striking similarities to my own accident were too glaring to ignore. His carefully constructed narrative was crumbling. I had everything now: the digital breadcrumbs, the compromised schematics, the insider testimony, the public's growing suspicion. The absolute proof that would expose Marcus Kane, not as a visionary, but as a ruthless usurper. My final move was ready. He had built his empire on my downfall. Now I would dismantle it, piece by agonizing piece, in front of the entire world. The tide had truly turned. The grand hall of the International Maritime Summit hummed with anticipation. Marcus Kane was about to deliver his keynote address, a speech I knew would be his last as a celebrated figure. My moment was just after his. I felt a cold, determined calm. This was not just about revenge. It was about truth. When my turn came, I walked onto the stage. The screen behind me lit up, not with charts of future profits, but with the meticulous, damning evidence. Schematics showing the compromised components, the digital logs of the malware's activation, the time-stamped maintenance records. Each piece connected, undeniable. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. Faces turned from the screen to Marcus, who sat stunned in the front row. Journalists scrambled, phones lit up, the whispers grew into an uproar. The truth, once buried, now roared. Marcus's carefully constructed world began to crack, then shatter. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Before the day was out, news channels were running special reports. Major contracts were revoked, investors began pulling out of Kane's salvage. His empire, built on deceit, crumbled faster than the Leviathan. He was experiencing the same public disgrace I had endured. I found Marcus backstage, cornered by security, his face pale and contorted. He tried to speak, but I cut him off. "You systematically destroyed my life, Marcus," I said, my voice low and steady. "You sacrificed our brotherhood for greed. Now you will face the consequences of your choices." The authorities arrived soon after. Marcus was led away, his hands cuffed, his once confident swagger replaced by a defeated slump. His career, his reputation, his entire future, utterly destroyed. The silence that followed his departure felt like the quiet after a long, brutal storm. Justice, finally, had been served. In the days that followed, the headlines shifted. My name was cleared. The industry, once quick to condemn, now offered apologies and recognition. My integrity, my seamanship, my honor, all were unequivocally vindicated. They felt like breathing fresh air after years spent underwater. The path to rebuilding would be arduous, but I felt a renewed purpose. I began sketching plans for a new venture, one built on unwavering integrity and true excellence. No compromises, no shortcuts, just honest work and respect for the ocean. My legacy would not be defined by betrayal, but by resilience. The industry, once a hostile sea, now offered new currents of opportunity. Old colleagues reached out, not with pity, but with respect. New investors, drawn by my unwavering fight for truth, expressed interest. It wasn't about the empire I lost. It was about the honor I reclaimed. The scars of betrayal would always remain, a reminder of the darkness I had faced. But I had prevailed. True seamanship, true integrity, could not be stolen. My unwavering fight for truth had won. I had lost an empire, but I had reclaimed something far more valuable: myself.